Oh, no, it's the fourth edition.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the scariest time of your life. How many of you guys are parents of first-time drivers? Ooh, okay, I raised three boys, and so I still shaking from that. I remember sitting in the room, and they did the very scary tactic of you picked a card as you walked in, and then you were a statistic of how the accidents happen. And I know my son and I it was a scenario that he had multiple people in his car, and what his life expectancy was if he violated the rules of the road being underage. And so being an educator, we obviously took that very seriously. And then I ended up buying one of them a scooter because they couldn't take any passengers. So your kids are going to push the limits on you, but I do want to let you know as the administrator that when they start driving to school, we want them to be safe and lock their car. The one thing I need to tell you guys, your kids need to lock their car because our kids don't lock their cars and things sometimes disappear. So teach them the rules of the road and also the safety of otherwise for their stuff to be protected. Exciting times. We are going to respect your time this evening. Julie Carden and Dan Buck are going to, and then Mr. Schuster will also be the three instructors for this summer. And I have to understand these are not BHS rules. These are the State Department rules for driving. And we just have the opportunity to host it here, have teachers who have taken classes for that and are certified in that area. And so, as Julie said, this is her first time as the head person in charge, and so we're going to answer as many questions as we can tonight. If not, you'll get the opportunity to write this down. We'll get back with you on those. So again, enjoy. Good luck to all you little drivers out there, and that's why I park in front of the school. So.
Well, good evening. My name is Julie Carden, and I am the ag teacher here and also the driver's ed instructor. I do want to, first of all, before I get started, apologize. Someone this week left me a voicemail. The ladies in the office said it was about driver's ed, so we sent it to voicemail. I couldn't open it. So if one of you left a voicemail, hopefully I will get your question answered tonight. And then if you still have it afterwards, that's great, but I'm sorry. So it was not on purpose. But again, welcome to driver's ed. I'm going to keep this as fast as we can go and get through all of your questions. So again, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for supporting your students in them wanting to drive, and hopefully we'll get all of your questions answered. But tonight we'll be covering some goals of the program, the length of the program, and the calendar. I know that's a big one. Attendance, and then parent involvement, and just our policies that we have through both BHS and the state. So our goals of the program is we want to familiarize parents with our program and what we do so that your teenager can experience the best driver's education course that we can give them. And ways you can show support so that it is a smooth one for them and to make them a safe driver as we go through the course. So as far as parent involvement, we would love it if you would take your students out ahead of time, if possible, and drive with them. It makes it go so much easier for us when you have been behind the wheel before, hopefully legally behind the wheel, but when you have been behind the wheel as students and it's not your very first time getting behind the wheel. So parents and guardians, if that is a possibility for you, we really encourage you to do that. We also encourage you during the program to take your students out and drive with them. Some of them may be struggling with certain behind-the-wheel competencies, and if we know what those are, and we can kind of send them home with some homework to work on, it makes it go much easier and hopefully give them the pass rate that we want. And then of course after, we want these drivers to be safe. We want them to be able to drive around town, and I don't want to have to see a kid and be like, oh my gosh, I had them in driver's ed. I don't want that. I want them to be safe drivers when they leave, and they're coming into that school parking lot, you know, at 7:50, 7:49 in the morning, trying to make it for the 7:50 bell. So it will help the students complete the behind the wheel portion of the program. Also, it is recommended but not required. If they can get their instructional permit prior to coming to driver's ed, that's great. If not, we will help them be ready to obtain that. And we will do the paperwork so that when they are done here, they can go and get that instructional permit when they leave from driver's ed. So if they can't get it, no big deal. But if they can, that's great. It's one less step that we have to worry about in the driver's ed process. So up to you as a parent, and I know a lot of it may depend on their age and when they will turn 14. So if you go out and drive with your kids, or especially at age 14, who can drive with these kids as they have their instructional permit? An instructor, a parent or guardian, or someone who is over the age of 21 and has a license, an actual driver's license. They need to have that to be driving with someone that is 14 that has an instructional permit. And then also they need to be in the front seat with them. And please wear your seatbelt. But those are all things that need to happen as you go out and drive with your teenagers. So this is a two-phase program. There is a behind the wheel portion, and there is also the classroom instruction. And there's something I really want to hit on. Just because your student passes the classroom portion does not always mean that they will pass the behind the wheel portion, or vice versa. We have had some students in the past that have completed the classroom portion, and they did not complete the behind the wheel portion. And they've had to come back and either retake it or get their license a different way. So this does not guarantee that your student is going to pass driver's ed just because they show up. They have to be able to complete all of the competencies for the behind the wheel portion and also the classroom instruction. So it will take approximately 2 weeks of classroom instruction to get through all of the classroom portion of it. So 10 class periods or 10 days. So 2 weeks of school weeks. It covers 17 chapters of the Drive Right book that we have. We provide that for the students. We also provide study guides for them to use, and then we will also, they will take the Kansas drivers, the handbook test, and we also provide the handbooks for them. So really, they have everything they need. We will provide computers as well. The school computers will have them keep their computers. If they are on the driver's ed list, I turn it into the tech program, so they will have a computer in front of them. We would like them to not take those home. So if they do need to study, I can email them extra study material if that's something that they need to do and that they can do that at home, preferably on their phone or on a home computer, just because we don't want that computer getting left at home for the next day and then they don't have it available to them. So they will have their computers. Behind the wheel is typically 5 days of instruction. I do have people always ask, well, can I test out of this? Can I hurry up? Kansas state statute says we cannot do this in less than 7 days, no matter what. So we have to provide 7 days minimum instruction. And so how we have it set up is 10 class periods in the classroom and then 5 days of instruction. Those may overlap, and I'll show you a calendar and kind of how that's going to work, but those oftentimes overlap. The behind the wheel session is a 2-hour session. So your student will go with another student in the vehicle, and they will drive and trade off at different times in 2-hour blocks. So approximately an hour apiece. Sometimes that last day is a little bit longer than 2 hours because we do go a little bit farther and do a little bit more driving on that last day. So that is, we do 2-hour blocks, and then I have extra time blocked off if your student needs some extra drive time to complete those competencies. We do have time set aside to be able to help your student go ahead and complete those competencies. And then certificates of completion can be picked up at the end of the entire course. So if your student is done at the end of the second week, their certificate of completion will not be done until the end of the course because I have to go in and print all of them off at one time through the portal, through the state of Kansas. So there is a date for that those can all be picked up. This is huge. Students must be 14 by the first day of class. The first day of class is May 20th. If your student is not 14 by May 20th, do not send them. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but the reason for that is there is a Kansas state statute that says they must be 14 to test. They will take the handbook test on the very first day of class, so they will be testing, which means we have to have them be 14 by the time they come into this classroom on the first day. So May 20th is the deadline to be 14. So please make sure that they are 14. Also, this was a question that I had, if my student has already taken, for example, the driver's test and they failed it once or even failed it twice at the DMV, can they still test? Yes, they can. They can test with us. We give them 3 tries on each test. After that third failed attempt, we do excuse them from class. So they have 3 tries to pass each test. There will be a chapter test for each individual chapter, and there will also be the Kansas handbook test that they must pass also. If they fail after the third try, we'll ask them to come back the next year. So we do provide study guides, and we will help them as much as we can. We also have para support. So if a student needs some help or needs a test read to them, we have no problem making those accommodations and helping the student. So, and we will go through and cross-reference. Lindsay, I'm probably going to go through that with you. And make sure that we are providing all of the support that we need to for your student to be successful through the program. Because that is the #1 goal, is for your student to be successful. So we will have paraprofessionals in here, usually at least 1, depending on how many students we get, that are signed up to go ahead and help with the course. So before I go any farther, are there any questions so far? Because I'm going fast. I'm throwing a lot at you. No? By the way, we are recording this, so if you have questions and you want to go back and look at this, it will be available to you. So attendance. I took this directly out of our driver's ed handbook that has all of our course material in it, and I copied and pasted it so that it was very clear. But students must be present for all classroom sessions. Abuse of this policy will result in dismissal or no credit for class, and administration reserves the right to make the final decision on an individual case. Students cannot complete the driver's education course in fewer than 7 days. So, and I'll go through what happens if your kid gets sick or something like that here in just a second. And again, the testing procedure. All tests must be passed with 80% mastery. That's what you have to pass with 80% mastery for each module or chapter that we are going to do. So again, students can retake it an additional 2 times, so 3 total times in order to pass, to reach that mastery level. So it's very important that they do, if they're struggling a little bit and we tell them, hey, we want you to come back and retake this test tomorrow, we'll send them home with some study materials so that they can go home and study and make sure that they do pass. Again, no student will be eligible for credit unless that student completes each instructional classroom and behind the wheel module in the stated criteria. So they have to be here and be present for class. So if a student is truly ill, I need to know before class. That way I know that we can make arrangements. And then arrangements must be made up for missed classes and or drive time, especially on the drive time. They've got to get that made up. So if they just choose not to show up and we call that a no call, no show, I'm probably going to tell them you're done. Your parent did not contact me, you didn't contact me. It was not important enough for you to let me know that you couldn't be here or that you were sick, and you'll need to come back next year. So please be in contact with me, and I'm going to show you a great way to be in contact here real quick. So if a student misses more than 1 driving day, they're going to need to repeat it. We can make up 1 driving day. But if they miss 3 driving days, it's impossible to go back and make all that up. So unless it's extenuating circumstances. And if that's the case, Mrs. Grover and I will address that at that time. But so far we haven't had any of those issues. Things you must have for the program. You might want to take a picture of this one if you have your phone. Again, we're going to post this, but this would be a great one to take a picture of. You need a birth certificate on file or a copy brought to class. I believe we should have their birth certificate, hopefully, maybe. If it's not on file, they will need to bring a copy of it. Or if you don't want to send a copy of the birth certificate, I'm going to give you my email. You are more than welcome to scan and email me a copy so that we're not having, a birth certificate floating around out there. If you do not trust your soon-to-be freshmen or however old they are to, make sure they get that paperwork where it needs to be. The other thing, this is new. This was new last year. You have to have a piece of mail verifying their address. So it can be even something as simple as a grade card. A piece of mail that is come to them that verifies that address, that they are a resident. And so we have had to start that to make sure that you are in fact a resident of the state of Kansas. So that apparently has become an issue with the state. Don't ask me why they started it, but that was new last year. So, and it's still new, or it's still going to be in effect this year. You can bring it to class, or you can scan it. If you want to scan it in an email and email that to me, that's perfectly fine too. I'm fine with whichever one you want to do.
Mail addressed to the student?
Yes. I know. Here they are like these are 14-year-old kids, and we're like, we need a piece of mail addressed to you. So I know, it's great. Not my rules, so sorry. Yes, ma'am.
If they have their permit and it has their address on it?
If they already, if they already have their permit, they should be okay.
Okay.
So, if they already have their permit, they should be okay. I will double check I will
do all that.
email my person at the state and double check and make sure that's good if they already have their permit, because they've already had to verify those kinds of things as you did that. If they don't, and we're doing the DE 99 with them, for that, but I will make sure of that. So, I will email her. If your child, wears prescription glasses, contacts, or hearing aids, we will do vision screening for them during class. So please, if they have glasses or contacts, they need to wear those so that we can use them during the vision screening. Please make sure they have those with them. Hearing aids, if they have those, just to make sure they can hear, and then we'll have to fill out some additional paperwork, but that's not a big deal. Proper footwear. When they are doing their drive days, I really don't care what they wear as long as, I want shoes on their feet, but I don't care what kind of shoes they wear in the classroom. But when they drive, they need to wear closed-toed shoes, no flip-flops or sandals. So that is a safety issue, so they do need to have proper footwear on the days that they drive. And then again, the computer will be provided by the school, and then a writing utensil, pen or pencil, just to take some notes if they need to. We'll have paper if they do need to write stuff down, so that's not a big deal. So the calendar dates. These are pretty much set, but it will begin Monday, May 20th at 8 a.m. Monday, May 20th at 8 a.m. We will not have classes the week of May 27th, which is that Memorial Day. Although driving probably will still occur with Mr. Schuster. I will not be here to teach the classroom portion. Since I am an FFA advisor, I have state FFA convention that week. And it's just how it falls. It would be no different if we had state track or anything like that. We usually actually don't have class that week because of state track or state FFA. The classroom portion will conclude Friday, June 7th. So they will be done with the classroom portion Friday, June 7th. That's our 2 weeks, unless we're doing makeups. So unless somebody is sick and has to make something up, we'll be done Friday, June 7th. The behind the wheel portion will start at noon each day and conclude by 4 p.m. And depending on what block, 2-hour block, your student is doing. So they may drive from noon to basically 2, and then 2 to 4. Okay? 8 to noon. Class is generally from 8 to noon. There may be days they get out a little early. If they pass a test or they don't have to make something up and everything's going great, they may get out a little early. We're still here. So if they get out a little early and you can't pick them up till noon, don't worry, someone will be here. But we do start driving at noon. So I know that's kind of a pain because you're like, well, what do we do for lunch? And if your kid is driving at noon and we're ending at noon, I would say bring your lunch and snarf it down real quick, because we wanna get them through. Most students should be able to master the behind the wheel portion, in 5 days unless they are needing that extra drive time. And if that's the case, we will contact you, we will talk with the student, we will schedule that. I do have time built into the calendar. If they do need extra drive time, we can make that work, to pass the competencies so that your students are confident drivers. Again, all driving, we're hoping to conclude by June 21st at this time with the number of enrolled students we have right now. That could be longer if we have a whole bunch more that have not, like if you haven't enrolled your student yet and you're like, well, I just wanna come to the meeting and find out, that could change just a little bit. And then again, certificates will be ready to pick up on the 21st also. So I will go in and I'll print everything off, that needs to be printed off. So that is the plan as of right now, unless we get a bunch more people signed up, and we'll let you know. If you guys wanna go ahead and, by the way, the remind has changed. I'm gonna write it on the board. I changed it to something easier. I'm gonna write the remind on the board, because I don't remember what it is. We do have a remind. I will try to send out any reminders that we have, but through Remind. But if you have the Remind app, it's great. So BHS Driver's Ed 244, BHS DE 244, that is the app to add on Remind. So if you have something, if you need to message me and you don't have my phone number, you can message me through the Remind app. If I need to send out an announcement of something to everyone, I can send that out through Remind. If your kids want to add that too, it's for parents and kids, so please have that Remind on there. That is my cell phone number, so if something happens, your child is sick, can't be there, you've had a family emergency, whatever it might be, that is my cell phone number. I will tell you though, if I am driving with a student, I will not answer it. So if we're in driving, I'm not gonna answer my phone while I'm driving with kids, so, you can also text me if it's super big emergency or something, and I can probably get it better that way. That is my email, so if you need to email me, that is also, Mr. Schuster's email. So if you are driving with him as your instructor, and you will find out who you're driving with when I make the calendar, that's who you get a hold of. And then Mrs. Grover, our principal, if you need something from her, that is her email also. And if you would like to get a hold of Mr. Buck, since he's working with us student teaching this summer, it would be dbuck@usd244ks.org. So if you need to reach him also, these are okay. I will try to send updates through the Remind just because it's handy. Okay, so we have basically reached the end of our meeting. I told you I would try to get you out of here in 30 minutes, so we have some time for questions. What questions do you have for me so far? Okay. What I need for you to do is, if you can please scan the QR code, what that's gonna do is that is your certificate of completion. This is how we know that you were here and that you completed this, you attended it, and that we know who your student is. And if you have questions that maybe you don't want to ask right now, please fill them out in there. There's an area for questions so that you can ask those on that form. And if you do not have cannot do a QR code, let us know. I can take down your email. So if you're not a QR code person, at the end of the meeting, if you'll just come down, and if you have an email, I will just send you the form. I can email it to you instead. And only if you have both parents here, really only one parent needs to complete the QR code.
It won't let you sign in either. It has a school one or work one.
That's why. Yeah, QR code, they don't necessarily
the kids can sign in with their kids can with their school, you know.
Yeah, I can get them with my school too. But I can't change the birthday from 24 to without going to.
Yeah, adults do his. They don't make the kids do it.
You got it?
Okay, we refreshed it, it should go down.
I try it again. I put anyone can record me.
On the date for your birthday, it makes you go back 1 month. Okay.
So that's a lot faster.
So change the year, okay. And then okay, that's better.
Since when were you, what type of person?
I'm surprised you. You didn't?
Born on a Friday? I was born on a Friday? Coolest dude around. I don't remember that, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. Not a 1224. Oh, and you're 42.
That's a lot better.
What?
Because I was like, one month. Justin, you said today.
Just put it to 2020. Yeah.
Whoa, buddy.
Attitude, remember what I was talking about? Any questions? Comments? Really? Oh, and grandma's. Because you can think, I just read you.
If you do not have any further questions, you're free to go. If you have done the
Talk to you.
Yeah.